Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Resto Mod Daisy, and tonight we're going to be talking about a technique for restoring old plastic bits and pieces. Normally this is not a concern for me because I usually replace plastic stocks with wood stocks. But working on a job, the customer wants the original plastic back on the gun. We've been running a series of videos on this little guy here. This is a Daisy Model 94 Red Ryder. This is the original 4-stock the gun came with. And as we described on our receiving video, you can see it's got a case of the hot dogs. A little bit of flex, a little bit of bend. Nothing unusual for a gun built in this year. Well, I've been fooling around with daisies for quite a while, and there's always been a school of thought that said that these forearms can be straightened out with the judicial use of a hot air gun. I've never messed with it. Once again, usually I just put wood on. But because I want to try and get this forearm straightened out a tad, we decided we would do some experimentation. And so here's example number one. As you can see, it is now straight, but it has issues. Learned a lot on experiment number one. First is you don't need to heat the ends of the piece. You need to heat where the bend's going to occur. And I discovered that the heat range of the material is not exactly extreme. This was event number two, so we're getting a little closer to the straight. We don't have melting on either end, but you'll notice we have a bit of push through here in the center of the forearm, and that is because that's where the support structure for this is built in. Well, as you can see, we have lots of practice candidates, so I'm going to show you how I'm trying to get this done based on the best research available on the internet. Well, the first thing you're going to need to do is step over here and take a look at our arbor. Excuse me a second. Let me get our next candidate ready. What you need to do is get an arbor, in this case a 1-inch wooden rod, small nail, so that you can mount your test subject, and then you'll be able to flex it left and right. Now, to do this job, I think you need two essential pieces of gear. One is an instant thermometer, like this. You just paint it on a subject, it gives you a readout, tells you what the temp is. Because I've discovered in my experiments so far that you get this stuff hotter than about 185, 190 degrees, it'll start to act like plastic acts. So you want to keep it around that temperature range so that once you get the center heated up, you can squeeze it a little bit and just kind of stretch this out and try and straighten this out. And so far everything I've done indicates that 180 is about the sweet spot. So get your test subject mounted in your assembly to do your squeezing with, and then get a heat gun. Had a heat gun was broke, went and got a new heat gun. This one's pretty cool. So you just turn it on, put it in high speed mode, and this marker into here right there tells you that at about third level it's going to be running 550 degrees. So what we're going to do is now play this on our target area, which is either side of where the pin's at, and we'll heat it up a little bit, and then we'll take its temperature, and then we'll heat it up a little bit more, and we'll take its temperature. Now you can do this by eye by watching the material, but probably having a thermometer is a much better idea. On my first experiment with the end that drooped really bad, yeah, you could see it start to bubble there just before it gave way, but I think that's a bit late in the game. So now we're running about 96, 97 degrees. We need to be up to about 180. So we put the heat back on it. We're trying to heat both sides because we want to get that stretch occurring in the center of the forearm assembly. And now we're going to be super cautious. We're at 129 already, so it's heating up pretty quick. We're going to get to our sweet spot before we know it. Now the neat thing about these newer heat guns is if you're not using them, you can just sit them on their base, leave them running, and they theoretically 147. Radically cooler on this side, so we're going to spend some more time on it. Try to get that caught up with the other side because we're in an even bend. Now, probably it is advisable to wear gloves, although the ends of this plastic don't get super hot, and you're not going to be hanging on to it for a long time. What you're basically going to do when we get to the grab portion of the exercise is you're going to grab it, squeeze it a little bit, and wait for deformation. I can't make its mind up what it is. And we're not going to try to get all the deformation we're looking for on the very first try. We're getting there. 160. Say what? Still a little cooler on this side, so we're going to spend some time over here. Because we want it to go as even as we can. We'll keep a close eye on it. It still says it's not hot enough over here. I'll shift this around a little bit. We should be in the range now. So now we're going to set our heat gun down. We're going to grab either end of the thing and we're going to squeeze it a little bit. You see that flex right there? So we're going to flex it a touch and we're going to hold it and let it cool because we don't want it springing back. And we're pretty snug on both ends of this 1-inch wooden dowel, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, now if you take a look right here, you'll see that there's a bit of a depression on this side of the mounting hole that wasn't there before. But if you take a look at the line, it looks pretty straight. So we're going to tell this to shut off, and that'll turn it into it runs for a couple of minutes to cool the ceramic element down. And we're going to dismount our forearm. I think that's the best looking one I've done so far. Number 3 is looking much better than number 1 or 2. So we'll put it on the ground, and we'll do the wobble test. No wobble. Then we'll take it and put it on the gun. Looks straight. You can push on one end or the other and it doesn't flop up. So the drawback to the technique is you do get a little bit of a dimple. At least I did on this one. Not guaranteed it'll happen on everyone, but more than likely it will. The plus side is you now have a functional forearm that will work on a gun. And that is the purpose of today's video, to show you how to take these wobbly goblins and with a heat gun and a thermometer and a little bit of time, make them into something that's passably usable. That's all we've got for you today, kids. This is Shane Bruce with Rest on My Daisy, signing off.